What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Clutch Talk, episode 3 today. Big weekend this past weekend with Super Regionals. And I got a lot of breakdown today. That's what I'm going to be doing today, breaking down and recapping the Super Regional weekend. And then tomorrow, or I guess it'll be Wednesday, I'll be giving you a preview of my Omaha predictions. It's a loaded field this year, very different. I'm pretty sure the SEC is leading with conferences of teams in the field, and they only have 2. So it's a very deep, sparse, spread out field in Omaha this year, probably the most that we've had in a long time. So I'm super excited for it. But let's preview the Super Regional. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. We had 75 views on my first video, which is actually not bad. So let's keep it up. The goal is obviously to get to 100 subscribers first. So if y'all don't mind subscribing, that would be great and help the channel a lot. All right. Let's get started here. We're going to start with the Louisville Super Regional. I think this one honestly was decided in the first game, and that sounds crazy because it went to 3 games, but I really think it was. Because AJ Siskars, Miami's ace, was a freshman, but he had been great all year long, and they put up 6 earned runs on him and 2 1/3, and it was a lot of long balls. What we expected from Louisville was small ball. They're going to get bunts. They're going to get the ball in play, run on the base pads, all the things, but they end up getting 3 home runs basically in the first 2 innings and put AJ Siskar out, and that's what ended game 1. It was pretty for sure it was like 8-2 final score. So you get to AJ Siskar game 1, and that puts Miami in a really bad spot, especially with Louisville's crowd, which was fantastic all weekend. They were ruckus. There was a massive amount of people there. But we get to game 2, and I thought Louisville had game 2 won based on how game 1 went, but their bullpen did not play well, and Miami wins 9-6 game 2. Not a good bullpen game from Louisville. However, that game 3, they bounced back in a great way. They only give up 2 hits and no earned runs. The bullpen does after the starter goes out, Ethan Herbal, who actually played really well as well. And the final score of that one's 3-2. Louisville's pitching obviously was the concern because we know their offense has been good. They beat you in a lot of ways. We know that now that they can hit home runs on you as well as get on the base pads and get steals and all that. But their pitching did very well of not allowing walks, getting outs, and aside from game 2, I thought they played very complete and very well. Patrick Forbes is still very scary as a pitcher. He's still growing. He played fantastic game 1. And Louisville is a team in Omaha that I think is someone you need to watch out for because of their style of play. Obviously, Omaha's ballpark is so much bigger than most of the ballparks in college baseball. If you can get on the base pads and run like Louisville does, it gives them just a chance. I'm not saying they even win a game, but I think it does give them a chance to compete, and it adds a different element offensively than what people are used to. So shout out to Louisville. They were the first team in Omaha. Great for them. Now it's on to the Corvallis. Let's move on to Corvallis. This one, I picked Florida State, and I still think Florida State should have won this Super Regional. I mean, game 1, they blew really bad. Dax Whitney, they threw Friday night. Oregon State did. He had 10 strikeouts, was great. But, Florida State went up 3-1. I think it was actually 4-1. No, it was 3-1. 3-1. Bottom of the 9th. They had 2 outs. They needed 1 more out. No, Christian was 4-1. They had 2 outs. Bottom of the 9th, and they gave up 3 runs. And they go to extra innings, and Oregon State ends up winning 5-4. Florida State had it. They had game 1, and they would have won game 2 with Jamie Arnold on the mound. And they could not get the job done. Oregon State did a great job, though, getting hits and making it interesting. And then you get to game 2, and Ethan Kleinschmidt and Jamie Arnold had a great duel. Kleinschmidt had 11 strikeouts in 6 innings. Jamie Arnold had 9 in 6 2/3. Oregon State wins this one 3-1 game 2. They had late offense late in the 7th inning. They get 2 runs to win this one. Man, that Jamie Arnold, I'm telling you, that projected first overall pick, and for good reason. I really hate that most people don't get to see him because he's not going to Omaha, and most people just watch college baseball for the World Series, because he was fantastic all year long, and he did, again, a tremendous job Saturday. And it was unfortunate because, again, if Florida State just won that first game, all they needed was 1 out. They were even down to the final strike multiple times and couldn't get the job done, and that's what led to the win for Oregon State game 1. But they bounced back game 2, Florida State does. And then you're looking at it and you're like, okay, Wes Mendez on the mound for Florida State. I think they can have the chance. Oregon State had thrown Whitney and Kleinschmidt, the best 2 starters for them. They were on to their 3rd starter. So it got very interesting, I thought. But then Oregon State's offense puts up 13 runs in just 3 innings. They blew it open. It was 13-3 after the third inning. They put up 7 in the first on Wes Mendez. He didn't even make it out of the first inning. A guy who had thrown a 4.5 ERA all year long, pretty consistent starter. They dial him up. Florida State's offense did their best to make it look competitive. The final score is 14-10, but it's so hard to come back from a deficit like they have 13-3. Oregon State hit a ton of long balls, and Florida State's pitching struggles. Again, in my last video, I talked about, other than Jamie Arnold, who's going to be that pitcher, or even the bullpen for Florida State, who's going to step up, and they didn't have that. Now, I did think Florida State's Friday night starter did a really good job. Only got 1 earned run, and he actually should have been the one that won that game, Joey Vellini. But again, the bullpen struggled there in that late inning, the bottom of the ninth. They get rocked, and then they lose the game. Same thing happened here. Wes Mendez struggled a little bit. He's no Jamie Arnold, but he was pretty decent all your struggles, but then the bullpen can't get him out of it. It gets worse. And you give up 6 more runs in the third inning, and you're down 13-3 before you know it. And that was the thing, again, that was a storyline for Florida State, and they, again, just could not get the job done. Couldn't be consistent enough on the mound. As good as their offense was all year, other than Jamie Arnold, pitching-wise was always the question mark, and they just couldn't get the job done. And I hate that, but Oregon State, again, they played an independent schedule all year. No one really wanted to play them at their place because it's Oregon State. Who wants to go to Oregon State, especially with how prestigious that program is? And they play on the road a lot this year, and they put up a really good record. They build their RPI up. They end up getting to that 8 seed to host, Super Regional. And they're scary. I mean, they hit the ball so well. And again, Dax Whitney and Kleinschmidt are 2 starters that can get you 2 wins, heavy strikeout swingers and all this stuff. So they're they're also very intriguing. I like that matchup of Louisville, Oregon State. I think it could be very entertaining. But yeah, Oregon State, they're going back to the first time since 2018, when they actually won the national championship in 2018. So shout out to the Beavers. Moving on to the Chapel Hill one. This one was very confusing throughout. North Carolina dominated game 1, won 18-2. However, Jake Knapp was one of the best pitchers in college baseball. Had a sub-2 ERA all year long. Very, very good. Always made it deep in the ball game. And Arizona was able to get hits on him early and often. I mean, they still racked up a lot of hits on him. He ended up settling in later in the game. But they were able to get hits on him and stuff. They just couldn't get runs. And again, their pitching really struggled. North Carolina's offense continued what it did in the Chapel Hill Regional and put up 18 runs in game 1. But I was watching, post-game, and they were like, well, Arizona's able to get hits, which is true. And so you're like, if they can just continue to get hits against, DeCaro and all this stuff, they really might have a chance to even win a game and bounce back. Well, then in game 2, DeCaro only throws 3 2/3. Arizona puts up 16 hits, and they had a 4-run 7th inning that wins them game 2, 10-8. Arizona's offense was very good in the Eugene Regional, and they were able to get hits against Knapp. And then here comes DeCaro, who's an All-SEC pitcher, and they dial him up. And they win 10-8. Game 3 was very pivotal, especially after how Arizona had responded to how they got embarrassed in game 2. And North Carolina blows it, in my opinion. They were up 3-1 top the 8th, and they gave up 3 in the top the 8th to lose. It's similar to Florida State. Like, you have it won. You just need to get those last couple outs. They couldn't get the job done. And North Carolina, to me, like I said in my past couple of videos, I thought they were national championship good. If that offense had stayed consistent stuff, like we didn't think they could. They only put up 3 runs, but I still thought with 3 runs, the pitching staff could do enough, and they just couldn't get the job done. In Arizona, shout out to them. They had a tough path. This is Big 12 champions, but they had to go on the road to Eugene, win that tough regional, and then they go all the way across the country to North Carolina for a Chapel Hill regional against one of the hottest teams in the country, and they win that after getting embarrassed in game 1. So Arizona's also another very intriguing team in Omaha. I don't know how their path looks versus a team like Louisville or Oregon State, but Arizona has earned the right to be there with how tough of a path they had and the teams that they have beaten. So shout out to the Arizona Wildcats. Now on this Auburn regional. So the first game was very entertaining because it ended at I think 2:30 in the morning. I didn't stay up for it, I'm going to be honest. I watched it the next day. But big game from Caden Bodine and Blagan Pato. They both had 2 home runs, and they accounted for all 7 of the RBIs that Coastal had in game 1. Their offense was very, very good this game, especially from those 2. It goes to extra innings. They win 7-6. Coastal Carolina does, which is scary because then Jacob Morrison's on the mound for next day. So Auburn knows that one of the best pitchers up on the mound, and they were fantastic in game 2. Jacob Morrison throws 70 strikes on 106 pitches, and Hayden Johnson out of the bullpen threw 3 innings and was really good. He threw 37 strikes on 56 pitches. Very high strike percentage. That's what Coastal's been all year, a very good pitching staff. They don't walk many people. They're super, super, super deep as a staff, and they have 3 starters who are all 3 of them, extremely, extremely consistent, which most teams don't have. Even Arkansas, even LSU, even Oregon State, those teams, they don't have 3 consistent arms. They have 2 really good arms, all 3 of those teams that I just mentioned. But Coastal Carolina is the one that only has 3 consistent arms. And that offense played very well again in game 1 to show that they don't just have the arms. Caden Bodine was very good the entire Super Regional. And Auburn's weakness was that how young of a team they were, but I did think they could still get the job done. And that game 1, I think, was the seal, just how late it was. And I think you come in the next day and Coastal's pitching stayed as good as it has all year. They only gave up 1 earned run. And Coastal's going back to Omaha for the first time since they won it in 2016. And this is a team I don't think anyone wants to play because of how consistent their arms are, how deep that pen is, and no matter what starter they're throwing out there, it's going to be a sub-3 ERA. So that Arizona Coastal game is going to be very good. I think it's the first game to start Omaha. And I like Coastal's path. I really do, with how many of the arms they have. You don't want to play them. You really don't, especially if the bats get going at the right time. You just don't want to play them. So we got this side. We got Louisville versus Oregon State, and we got Arizona and Coastal Carolina. Again, Wednesday I'll give you my predictions for those. I was not very good at Super Regional predictions. I think I was like 3 of 8. But there was a lot of chaos in my defense. I mean, there's some of those 50-50 picks. Like, I was very heavy on potentially picking Oregon State and Coastal Carolina. I just went the other way and missed on them. But it is what it is. All right, moving on to this UCLA one. UCLA's pitching staff really flew under the radar this weekend. They didn't give up a single walk in game 1 against UTSA, and the final score I think was 5-2. And there was only 9 strikeouts between the 2 teams. There's a lot of ground outs, flyouts, all that stuff. But UCLA's pitching staff is very good. UTSA is one of the best offenses in the country all year long, and they went into the Austin Regional and dominated it. And for them not to give up a walk gave UTSA's offense very limited chances to get on base. So shout out to UCLA in that game 1. And then in game 2, UCLA kind of blew it open with 5 runs in the 8th and 9th inning after it was being 2-0 throughout the entire game. Again, they only gave up 2 walks that game, so only 2 free passes the entire 2 games. Is very impressive. And if they can keep that up, they can do a lot of things in Omaha. Because again, the thing about Omaha is you cannot give up free passes against some of these offenses that are going to be in it, especially Murray State, your first game. So for you to not be able to give a lot of free passes is a very good sign. And Rock Chalowski is one of the best shortstops in the country. He's right there next to Wahiva Aloy, in my opinion, with his hitting, and he's a fantastic fielder. I think he's a better fielder than Aloy. I think Aloy is just a little bit better hitter. But very, very good performance from UCLA. They dominated this series. It wasn't very close at all. And so they're going back for the first time since 2013 for the UCLA. And they won it all then too. So a lot of these teams that are coming for the first time since they won the championship, which is pretty cool. Going this Duke Super Regional, I didn't think Murray State had a chance. I really didn't. I thought Duke was going to easily win. But looking at it now, Duke's head coach just took the Virginia head coaching job. So maybe that had some factor in it that we don't know about. I guess we'll never know. But Murray State gives up 8 walks versus Duke in game 1, and they were playing into Duke's hands. Again, Duke was a team heading into it that led the nation in walks. And you give up 8 free passes to a Duke team, you're not going to win many games, and they didn't. Murray State lost his first game, gave up 7 runs. And as good as their offense is, again, the pitching had been a struggle, and if it was going to continue to be a struggle, they weren't going to win this series. However, in game 2, they limit the walks. And then here's where Murray State's offense comes in. They hit 4 home runs. They put up 19. And Duke had to throw 8 arms in this game. And a lot of them were for a third of an inning or 1 inning or an inning and a half or 2/3 of an inning. However, that's still not good when you have to throw out 8 arms, especially knowing there's a game 3 ahead because you give up 19 runs. Now Murray State did go up 9 runs. Again, that's going to be the thing with Murray State. They're going to give up runs. It's a matter of limiting the damage and putting up a lot of runs for Murray State offensively. But they limited the walks, which was big, and then they get 19 runs. Then you come to game 3. Again, Duke had thrown a lot of arms. It was a bullpen kind of game 3. And Hogar hits 2 home runs for them. He hits a leadoff home run to go up 1-0 early in the game. Murray State's pitching I thought was really good. They only give up 8 hits, 4 runs in game 3. And that was really important because, again, I think in game 3, I think the final score is only 5-4. If you're only going to put up 5 runs for your Murray State, your pitching has to be one of the best that they've played in this tournament so far because they've given up runs in almost every single game. But they did a very good job in the bottom of the 9th. Duke had a chance to walk it off, and Murray State did a fantastic job defensively and making plays in the field. And they won game 3, and they're going to Omaha for the first time ever. Really cool story. Their head coach, was a JUCO coach, gets hired to be the head coach of Murray State. 7 years later, they're going to Omaha. So a very cool story for Murray State, and they're going to be America's team in this tournament. Moving on to LSU, 2 more super regionals to break down, but LSU. This one was so weird to me because Cade Anderson did not have his best outing. He gave up 9 hits in 7 innings with 6 earned runs, but LSU's offense was, I shouldn't even say their offense was good. West Virginia's pitching was just so bad. We're talking about a 51% strike throw percentage. They only threw 97 strikes on 189 pitches. West Virginia did, and that's terrible. They get walked 8 guys. And against an LSU team with how good of arms they have, you have to make sure that they don't get runs. And they got 16 runs in game 1. Again, you got to beat LSU by limiting their runs and make their pitchers be perfect. Because Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson are 2 very good arms, and they can be perfect sometimes, but you just cannot let the offense beat you, and that's what West Virginia did. Because West Virginia, I thought, did a very good job against Ianson and Cade Anderson, but the offense the pitching game could not do enough. And same thing story in game 2. They walked 9 guys in game 2. Again, the 28 runs for LSU in 2 games. And they only had, I believe, 18 hits, but 28 runs just because of how many walks and stuff they give up. And the bullpen for West Virginia was really bad. And we talked about that. They were a wild card, even in the Clemson regional, with how the bullpen had struggled in the year. And they gave up a lot of runs in the Clemson regional, just managed to get out. And you can't do that against LSU, especially at the box if you want a chance. And they couldn't. And so LSU's going back to Omaha. They're a very scary team. They're potentially, I think, the second best team in Omaha. Them and Oregon State, it's really close. But yeah, I mean, LSU's always there, and they always put up a fight. The last one to break down is this Arkansas Super Regional. It was the biggest storyline, obviously, with Arkansas and Tennessee playing each other. And Zach Root and Gabe Gackle only give up 2 runs in game 1. They didn't throw a lot of strikeouts, but they got a lot of ground outs, lots of flyouts. They let Aloy make plays at shortstop. They let the outfielders make catches and stuff. Let the defense play behind them. And they made Tennessee be impatient. Early on, Root was throwing strikes, and Tennessee was just grounding out. And they were being very aggressive. I think Gavin Keelan even swung the first pitch of the game for an out. They made Tennessee be impatient, which is something that's hard. Tennessee was top 10 in the country in walks this year, but they made them be impatient. And then game 2 comes around, and Liam Doyle's on the mound for Tennessee, and you think, okay, Tennessee has a chance. Well, Arkansas beat up on him, and they did the same thing to end the regular season last year. But this time around, Doyle only makes it 3 2/3 and gives up 5 earned runs. And even Arkansas only puts up 4 runs game 1, but they get 10 hits. They had 20 hits in the 2 games, including 4 home runs, 3 home runs in game 2. They're the most complete team in college baseball. There's not a more complete team than the Arkansas Razorbacks. They hit. They have good starting arms, Gage Wood and Zach Root, and they have a really, really deep bullpen headlined by Gabe Gackle. With the way this offense has been hidden right now, I don't know if there's a team that can beat them, but they do have to play LSU game 1, so I think we'll know very early. It's kind of unfortunate if you're Arkansas, who I think is the best team in Omaha, that you're going to have to play potentially the second or third best team in Omaha. Definitely a top 3 team out of the 8 in Omaha and LSU. So that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be the best first game, I think. And then we'll see what happens from there. I think either way, I think Arkansas and LSU will be playing in the semifinals for a chance to go to the championship series. But Arkansas blew everyone away. I mean, they look so complete and deep. So many hitters that can hit home runs and just get on base. Charles Davalon's one of the best leadoff guys in college baseball. So that, yeah, shout out to Arkansas. Going back to Omaha, I think it's the first time it's 2022. And again, they've been so many times just haven't been able to get over that hump. And I think this is the team that could do it. And to be honest, with the kind of team he has and how complete it is, it's going to be very hard to get a team like this again. So I think that's something that Arkansas is going to have to capitalize on. With that being said, that's our recap of how everything went to Super Regionals. It was a great weekend. I think Omaha is not going to disappoint. You have teams from all over. You got teams from Sun Belt, Big Ten, SEC. It's going to be insane. Murray State's the Ohio Valley Conference, so it's going to be all over the place. I'm super excited for this Omaha week, and I'll be giving my predictions on how that's going to go on Wednesday. By the time you're seeing this, it's probably Wednesday morning, but I'll have this Omaha predictions uploaded by Wednesday. Again, if you like the video, and subscribe. And yeah, episode 3 down. Hopefully many more to go. Thank y'all.